A former homicide detective is suing Fox News Channel, claiming the network made up a story about the murder of a Democratic National Committee staffer. And according to the suit, the White House and a prominent Trump supporter were both involved as well. The original story was about Seth Rich. He was fatally shot in Washington, D.C. in July of 2016. Now, a Fox News story published in May of this year said former detective Rod Wheeler, who was on the Fox payroll, had connected Rich to WikiLeaks and the leaked DNC emails. That story has since been retracted. Now, Wheeler says Fox fabricated quotes from him and concocted a fake news story to deflect attention from the Russia investigation. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid joins me now from Washington. Paula, this is a complicated story and a lot to go through with this complaint, so I want to hit it to you. Rod Wheeler is saying that he was used as a pawn to push out fake news. Break it down for us.
That's right. He alleges a conspiracy, essentially, between a wealthy Trump supporter and the White House and Fox News to push out this story at a time when the White House really needed to distract from the ongoing stories about Russia. Now, specifically, Wheeler says there were two quotes in the article that were false, that were attributed to him. He says that when the story was retracted, therefore his reputation suffered damage. But to be clear, during the time that Fox News was pushing out this story, Wheeler was willingly appearing on Fox News programs and quoting. He was talking about the story, and it may not have been exactly what he was quoted, but he was reinforcing the narrative here. So it is unlikely that, legally speaking, this lawsuit where he says he suffered harm is going to actually succeed. But what will succeed and what has succeeded is raising questions about whether or not Fox News and the White House were working together to push out stories to help the White House distract from things that it really wanted to take attention away from.
Is there any evidence that the Trump administration was involved in the concoction of this story?
In this lawsuit, there are text messages, there are voicemails from that wealthy Trump supporter alleging that the White House wants this story out all the way up to the president. There's one text message from this Trump supporter saying that the president has seen the story and he wants it out as soon as possible. There's also a meeting with Wheeler, the Trump supporter, and Sean Spicer about a month before the story was published, saying that they reviewed it. So again, no hard evidence, but certainly many text messages, voicemails, and confirmed meetings, although Spicer has denied the fact that the president was actually involved in pushing out the story.
How has Fox News, how else have they responded?
Fox News has issued a statement, and they're very specific in their language. They say that the accusation that the story was meant to help detract from coverage of the Russia collusion issue is completely erroneous. They say the reason it was retracted is still being investigated, and they also deny Wheeler has some accusations against them about racial discrimination. They also deny those. But they don't actually address the big question, which is whether or not they consulted or worked with the White House to push this story out.
And we do know, of course, that the president has a cozy relationship. He did with Roger, the now deceased Roger Ailes, and he does with Sean Hannity, of course, their primetime anchor there. So what does this mean for the Trump administration? Could this be something else that Special Counsel Robert Mueller looks into?
Yeah, that's possible. The optics aren't great. It raises a lot of uncomfortable questions. We'll see how the White House responds to those throughout the day. In terms of Robert Mueller, yes, this is something that Mueller could look at, because even if this was a campaign to just distract, what it does is ultimately attempt to absolve Russia of any responsibility for getting WikiLeaks those leaked emails, right? The crux of this story was that perhaps these emails came from someone on the inside, a DNC staffer, someone who wanted the truth out. So yes, this is something that potentially Mueller could look at as part of his investigation.
You know, you can't help talk about these developments in the Rich case without thinking about Rich's parents. And D.C. Metropolitan Police are still investigating their son's murder. Does this lawsuit change anything?
No, it does not.
Rod Wheeler, as you said, was a contributor for Fox and is also suing the network for claims of racial discrimination. Big picture, how do those facts affect this case? And I know you alluded to this in the first question, but does this look like it's going to be an uphill battle for Wheeler?
Absolutely, and I think that's why we mentioned at the outset. You know, you have to take this in the full context, which is the fact that he is a separate allegation, which he's suing Fox News for racial discrimination. He's made claims against them based on what he believes was a pattern of discrimination during his time there. He said he was unsuccessful in raising his profile and getting more appearances. And as a lawyer here, I can tell you, looking at this lawsuit, I think he's going to have a difficult time prevailing on the argument that these quotes were misattributed to him and that that when they were retracted, his reputation suffered damage because he was actively participating.
Yeah.
He was appearing on their platforms. He was supporting this story. But what this does succeed in doing, and perhaps this was the intent, is raising a lot of questions presented with evidence about whether or not Fox News and the White House worked together to distract from a story that's very difficult for the White House.
Paula Reid. Thanks, Paula.